Welcome, brothers and sisters. My name is Eros and I am the Zoulmaker. Today we will get on the first episode of a more technical lesson and we will talk about mind control. Now, this is maybe the most fundamental technique we will use through all our journey in the magical arts. Now, mind control is not to be confused with influence magic. Influence magic is practiced through spell work, through hypnotic techniques, and some vampiric techniques. Please do always remember I'm not a native English speaker, but today we are talking about controlling the self, controlling our self. Because without the control of our self deep within, any external influence we may apply will be pretty much irrelevant. Now, we want to use this technique to control our mind, our thoughts, aiming for a dynamic and never static mindset. What I want to tell you is when a thought is presented to us from our mind, we should act in response and never react to it. What I mean is we should analyze the fact itself with awareness that we had a thought and decide how to respond to that thought instead of passively not even notice we had a thought and react instinctively to that thought. How can we do that? The maybe most important technique, maybe the most fruitful, is to take in consideration any thought we have or we may have as a gift. So, taking any thought as a gift, we may want to accept it and act in accordance to the fact we received a gift, or to give it back, not even accepting it. Why we use this technique? Because we are bombarded by a constant internal propaganda. What do I mean? We are constantly bombarded by thoughts that are not even ours, but conditioned from many factors. For example, social pressures of peers, of society, of any sources we have surrounding us, social conditioning, again from our peers and many conditions. We may be constantly bombarded by thoughts deriving from our experiences, past traumas in some cases. And these all condition the brain we are inhabiting in. Because our brain is designed from many primeval factors through evolution. Our brain has remained in a certain sense similar to the original, so our brain is designed to make us survive, not to make us happy. What I mean is, if you see a bush moving on the forest, you usually are driven to think that something, maybe a wild animal, is moving inside that bush instead of it's just the wind. This is because our brain is designed to make us survive, not to make us happy. So mind control is the weapon, is the technique that we use to evolve ourselves as human beings to thinking monkeys towards aware beings. Now, the key of this technique is awareness of thought. So being aware of when you think, when you receive a thought, using the technique of the gifts of thoughts I've given you before. Please do remember, this technique is a skill, so we need to practice and we need to repeat it until we teach ourselves this technique and we forge this technique into an attitude. Now, applying a technique may fatigue you, may drag you down, but when it turns into an attitude, it comes to you completely naturally. We may have many dangerous or not pleasant attitudes that bring us down, that always condemns us within ourselves. But we can also forge positive attitudes. So we must forge this technique into an attitude. Because most of the times we tend to live our life in autopilot. This is already not completely positive, but at least if we forge positive attitudes, we tend to go towards what we really want, hacking our inside system of attitudes. So we never want to respond to thoughts, we want to take action in response. Taking action is an active motion. Now, please do remember, skills and attitudes are developed in time. Do not ever be afraid of failing. Learn from any eventual failure. Failing is part of the process of learning the technique of mind control. This will also allow us to recognize and then avoid self-courses. Self-courses are more often than not, present in our minds, and they usually manifest themselves in our thoughts, in things, banally speaking, like every time I wash my car, it rains. So through mind control, we can recognize them and snipe them down before they reach us. And please always do remember to never verbally, openly affirm self-courses towards yourself against your interest. Because they are usually, but not always, soft courses. This is the most common source of courses, and even if they are often softer than actual direct courses, they tend to stack up one upon the other and completely drag us down. So, using mind control, we fight towards what we want, but also against the self-courses which are chains from within, dragging us down. Now, of course, this technique will lead us towards meditation. But before meditation, with this technique, we can develop awareness. To develop awareness, I will suggest you a second exercise, which will be 5 minutes of awareness. Now, 5 minutes of awareness means that constantly, every day, you will take 5 minutes for yourself and yourself only. What I mean is, without distraction, no social media, no TV, no video games, even no music. You may want to use meditational music, but no, just listening to a song you like is what I mean. So these 5 minutes you will take every day are for self-awareness, mind control exercises, so analyzing your thoughts, and quiet reflection deep in you. Why do I suggest you this exercise? Because it's also a matter of pure self-respect. What I mean is, if I am not able to find 5 minutes for myself in 24 hours, why should you find 5 minutes for me? This is what I mean. It's also a symbolic thing, if you get me. Of course, you are not limited to 5 minutes, but I do understand we need time to work towards our objectives in our jobs and developing our passions. But these 5 minutes you take every day, at least 5 minutes, should become an habit. Of course, this technique and this exercise, repeated and trained, will transform you and also teach you to aggressively take action towards what you want. Because in our minds, we usually know the right decision, the right path to take when a question comes to us. So, for example, in our diet, in our sport life, in our passions, in our job, in our hobbies, we tend to know which one is the right answer and which one will drag us down. If I am on a diet, for example, should I eat that salad or just go to a fast food, for example? This also applies to people and places we associate ourselves with. Through the law of immersion and the principle of vibration, we will see the 7 principles in the future. But we tend to know what's right. But I do understand that you may not be in a position to change completely your environment. You still are in a position to change your choices. So, what I mean is, what you think, what you do, where you are, who you are with, is your responsibility. I know this is heavy, but the most important choice a magician, a witch, takes is to take massive responsibility upon himself or herself, of course. Let me get deeper. Your circumstances may not be determined by you. You may have a thought like, Pinter, I've got it, I need you. It may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility. And you need to take massive action now to change it. The magician is the one who takes massive responsibility. Please be with me in this. Even if you can't change your environment now, you still can access to Google, I guess, if you are hearing this video. So you may still consume motivation through books, if not books, videos, like the Master, Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Napoleon Hill, or even TED Talks, TEDx Talks. Of course, even if they are against your mindset, especially if they are against your mindset, please do consume them, because they tend to bring you in a different mindset. Maybe you are just resisting. Of course, as always, never follow blindly. Apply mind control to what you hear, and only then absorption of the mindset. As we say, this technique will lead us in the following lessons to meditation. But this basic technique that is easy to understand in its concept, but much harder to practice constantly, forging it into an habitude or at least a conditioning. This technique is perhaps the most powerful and the most important technique in our magical journey. And surely is the one technique that most often, more deeply changes, transforms the students, of course, if applied diligently through conditioning ourselves and developing an attitude. This one is the most important one, and is the first we explain, of course. Now, what are we doing with this technique? We are training ourselves to program ourselves, telling our mind where to go and not to be blindly dragged around by our thoughts passively. So what we want to do is never wait for change to happen to us, but to be ourselves the change. And we want to start now. Of course, we will get even deeper in the next lessons. But if I had your attention until now, I deeply thank you for your kind attention. Please always do remember to be the director of what's going on inside your mind and not a passive spectator. And of course, as always, may eternal light shine.